Need high-quality video to promote your event, business, or band? We can help.
We're Pixel Pond, a video production team based in the Pacific Northwest, providing high-quality content to clients across the U.S. and Canada.
Whether you want coverage of your live event to promote for next year, or need a camera and a camera operator for your next big project, we can accommodate projects of all sizes.
Your story is important. Visit pixelpondllc.com or send an email to info@pixelpondllc.com to get started today. We can't wait to work with you.
Coming up on Gamers Week podcast. Sam Winkler, the Borderlands 4 narrative director, was discussing the tone of the upcoming game on X. Forbes writer Paul Tassi joked that we were going to have a gun called Hawk Tuah, and a fellow dev asked me if it was real, and I wanted to put my head down the sink grinder. I mean, let's be honest, Hawk Tuah, that's already getting pretty old, and Borderlands 4 is not coming out for another year, probably at least.
Well, and not only that, is she's been recently kind of involved in a scandal where she did a cryptocurrency meme coin and then basically pulled out all the money before anybody else could. So, yeah.
And dumped it. Yeah, she dumped. She got all of her money, basically had all these people spend all of their money for it. And in all honesty, she's probably going to be hawk-tuing in prison if she's not careful.
TKN85 says, if you buy Hawk Tuah crypto, then you deserve to lose all your money.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
This will not make the show. Please don't make this. But if you were like, all the good holes are working. Not making the show, Blue. I swear to God.
No, none of this. None of this is making the show.
Oh, thank God.
Oh. Now I need a crossover where those two universes, meet.
No, please no. Do we have anything for cold open I can use?
I think it would be funny if you just spent like, beep.
Maybe I will.
I think this is going to be a prelude to how this episode's going to go. So I'm looking forward to that. Right?
Oh my God.
You guys ready to start?
Yeah. Sandy's going to run out of gifts, so we better do it.
Oh, nice. I like that transition.
Oh, look at that transition. Fancy.
See?
Oh my God.
We're coming up in the world.
Fancy.
We got subs on the bottom and resubs and follows.
Uh-huh. We got transitions. We got our new panels on our page updated. So you guys can learn everything about us, who we are, and what the podcast is about. You got links to our Twitter. You got links to our merch store, our Instagram. Our Discord's up there. But you don't have access to the Discord unless you become a patron.
I lied. I don't think Sanity's going to run out of gifts anytime soon. Good morning, Simon.
Hey, Simon. That looks like neon vomit right there.
Neon vomit and gasoline. That's the name of my punk band.
I was going to say Gamers Week podcast, Neon Vomit. That's our subtitle, right? That's our description.
That's neon vomit.
I think you have to add the and Vaseline part. Gamers Week podcast, Neon Vomit, and Vaseline.
No Vaseline.
On that note, welcome to Gamers Week podcast. Like the name says, we analyze the best, worst, and weirdest headlines of the past week in the video game industry. This is episode 144, and today is Wednesday, December 18, 2024. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. My name is Blue Williams, and I'll be your host this evening. But as you can see, I am not alone. I do have two fine co-hosts with me. My co-hosts love sunny days and sweeping the clouds away, and whether they're gleefully counting their games in their collection or loudly singing songs dedicated to the letter D, just like their favorite Muppets, they're always at their best with a hand up their ass. Please, everyone, say hello to Ryan Payne, aka Retro Game Brews, and the one and only Donnie G.
Thanks for that visual. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Reminds you a lot of college.
Hey, Puzzle Better. Sanity says, sounds like you guys need some Vaseline for the hands up your ass. And Webhead says, what a podcast daddy worthy intro.
That's why she's got the title.
All right, before we get started, next week in honor of Christmas, we will be releasing a special adults only holiday episode. So just fair warning, this episode comes from our uncut library, which means it's decidedly not suitable for work. So if you normally listen with your kids, don't next week. Just don't.
Nope.
And I assume we're going to label it as such.
We're going to label the out of it.
How fitting.
All right, let's move on to our reviews, reactions, and requests. Cactus Zaddy says, I just want the journalist who connected the game Among Us to the United Healthcare murder suspect to walk me through the statistical significance of one vigilante killer in 400 million global players. We greenlight far more deadly pharmaceuticals all the time.
I just love the last part of that. Is just that, right? Kind of hammer that point home, right? I love it.
Puzzle Better says, but this is always such a kid-friendly show, says no one.
Definitely PG-13 on the live show.
New Dead Gaming says, Astrobot was pure joy to play. Glad it was recognized. Most don't talk about the control integration as well. Everything was just so polished up. And I've said that before. Not enough games take full advantage of the DualSense capabilities. And definitely nobody does it better than Astrobot, which this was just another example of that.
Right. And I mean, they set it up with the Playhouse, right? And that was essentially a tech demo. So bringing it into the larger game made sense, and it works. It just plain works.
And it's super fun. Like even the new holiday level that just came out, I was like just doing the spin move over and over and the little jingle balls and the way it feels in the controller. It's so fun. I'm just like laughing.
You were doing
my
the
head
move
off.
all over and over with the balls?
Yep. Do love me some jingle balls. And finally, Ben Magnet says, honestly, Astrobot's GOTY win was well-deserved. I loved playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but Astrobot was just fun. It kind of made me feel like a kid again when you play a game that's super fun to play. It's the first game I platinumed for that reason.
Oh, congrats, Ben Magnet.
Yeah.
Golf clap for the platinum. All right, let's move on to our patron shoutouts.
All right. Well, we couldn't do what we do without the help of our gorgeous patrons. Here are the generous folks supporting Gamers Week on Patreon. Rai Secret Best Friend, Mega Retro Man, Gamma Troid, Mora Deeb, Michael LeKite, Emo S, Bill Tucker, The Real Retro Game Brews, Fruitcakes, Pickled Pecker, Ducks with Thick Thighs, Absolutely the Best Podcast, Wizard of Zardoz, Bobson Dugnut, Blues Little Sis, Loudmouth, Retro Blast, Pat. Yes?
We'll just ask about Ryred's Pickled Pecker later on.
I've said it a million times. I got to be honest with you. Loudmouth, Retroblast, Pat, B&T, Zilla Guy, The Mad Milkman, Seven Castle Forest, Crunchy Kong, Sheriff Snacks, Frank Grande, Retro BTW, Steven San, Ramboski, Terry Canair, Agil 2020, Don't Make Me Pull This Car Over, Games of Coffee, Hybrid Divide, You Fall Before Me, Davey PGH, The Pixel Pond Family, including Shannon and Luke, Zach Huge Thanks, Number One Blue Six Boys fan, John Barron, Snowball and Sony, and Evil Lust. If you like what you hear today, we really hope you do. Please consider joining us on Patreon. Your support helps cover the cost of producing the show, as well as cool stuff we'll be doing like prizes and giveaways. You also gain access to our bi-weekly patron-only bonus cast called Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. Visit patreon.com/gamersweek or follow the link in the show notes to learn more.
All right, let's move on to our headlines.
Our headline segment is proudly sponsored by the Retro Game Club podcast. It's a fantastic family-friendly retro gaming podcast. In each episode, Rob and Hugh pick 2 games to play and discuss, as well as news, interviews, and other topics. Right now, they're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Nintendo DS. Visit them at retrogameclub.net or follow the links in the show notes. Now, the Nintendo DS, I've owned like maybe 2 or 3 over the span of 20 years. I've never played it. It's always I'm purchasing them and then flipping them on Facebook Marketplace.
For me as well, I'm in the same boat, not necessarily the flipping piece, but that was that generation of gaming that I just kind of got away from it for a little while, right? Where I was like, later on in college, and I just wasn't doing handheld gaming at the time. So it was like, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. I was all in for all of those. And then I caught back up with the 3DS. So the DS to me was never really something that I have a whole lot of nostalgia for.
Yeah.
The only thing I know really about it is kind of like the memes, like the Nintendogs. Like, I hope somebody's taking care of the Nintendogs, But I think it obviously was a revolutionary thing that continued Nintendo's dominance over the handheld gaming space, right? And to have a dual screen display and being able to interact with that on the go, huge. So,
yeah, that was the period of time where I was very poor. Very poor student. Always wanted a DS, could never afford one. And then finally, much later as an adult, was able to get one. So still trying to catch up on that library and all the things I missed, but always been in love with that little console.
So with this celebrating its 20th anniversary, a little bit of trivia. Do you guys know what the first handheld console was to have a touchscreen?
Would it be the Tiger Gamecom?
You son of a bitch. You're right. Yes, you are. Wow. I was trying to trip some people up because I was, 20th anniversary. It's on topic. Was it the Nintendo DS? No! Stupid! So stupid! No, but Ryan nailed it. It was the game.com.
I mean, you did ask Mr. Pedantic, so.
I did. I didn't realize it, but you're right.
Man, that felt good.
All right, let's move on to the week's headlines. First up, fresh on the heels of winning Best Mobile Game, Best Indie Game, and Best Debut Indie Game at the Game Awards this year, Local Thunk, the mysterious solo dev behind viral sensation Balatro, is speaking out against European rating agency PEGI after it handed Balatro an 18+ rating because it could teach players how to dabble in real-world poker. The decision looks to have surprised developer Local Thunk, who questioned why Balatro has been deemed adults only when other titles that feature in-game spending and randomized item packs are considered suitable for children. Since PEGI gave us an 18+ rating for having evil playing cards, maybe I should add microtransactions, loot boxes, and real gambling to lower the rating to 3+, like EA Sports FC series, reads an X post from the developer. In a follow-up post, Local Thunk said they're more disgruntled at what they perceive as inconsistency on PEGI's part than the decision to give Balatro an 18+ rating. Just to clear it up, I'm way more irked at the 3+ for these games with actual gambling mechanics for children than I am about Balatro having an 18+ rating, they added. If these other games were rated properly, I'd happily accept the weirdo 18+. The red logo looks kinda dope.
So I gotta ask a question.
Okay.
Right. There's no money involved, right? It's all free. It's a game. There's no
exactly.
chance for okay.
And Local Thunk apparently also even put it in a will that should they die and the game be sold, it can never ever be monetized.
Love that.
Wow.
So for one, doing the right thing. But two, aren't there a million games out there that have like blackjack and other gambling type games in it, like as mini games that you play? And in fact, I remember there were like Final Fantasy games that have similar mechanics to that, right? That have to do with gambling and betting and all these kinds of things that make it accessible. Yet we didn't choose to make those adult only games. And did PEGI or did the European?
Yeah, the European rating system.
Did they make those games? Did they label those games as being potentially harmful to children? I don't think they did. So, I mean, maybe they're making an example because this is such a popular game. They're trying to get that out there and avoid children from being spoiled by the addictions of gambling. I get that. But if you're looking at a target to go after, I would choose one that's maybe a little bit more malicious, right? A game that actually intends to, we'll say, hurt the wallets and future potentially of these kids, right? Rather than Balatro, which has been on the whole a wholesome game, more or less.
Tekin85 says, I really want someone who plays Balatro to try to become a real poker player. They get absolutely destroyed because they didn't realize things like flushes are actually better than straights. Ducks in Disguise says Sonic 2 Casino Zone, ban the Genesis.
So just doing a little bit of quick Googling, there was Super Mario 64 for the DS, which had a table minigame similar to real world poker variant of 5-card draw.
Yeah.
So if you're going to allow that game to be rated at, PG or for everybody, and you're going to assign Balatro an 18 plus, that's being hypocritical.
Yeah.
What about Mario 2? Wasn't there like a slot machine?
Yeah.
That was a matchup.
No, wasn't there a slot machine to get coins at the end, and it would like give you
Yeah, you know what? You're right. That's equally as dangerous.
And
Sure.
Simon Asher in the chat says the DS version of Mario 64 and new Super Mario Brothers both have a bunch of casino mini games, but we're not 18 plus. So yeah, I mean, I think any of us, just off the top of our heads, without even thinking too hard, can come up with a zillion examples of games with gambling mechanics that were not rated 18 plus. And I guess the difference must be that this is rooted in a real life gambling game. But from personal experience, the point at which I really fell in love with Balatro was when I realized it has nothing to do with poker. Poker is the foundation of it, but the game is not about poker whatsoever. But if you didn't play it, which I assume the ratings board hasn't, then you don't really know that.
Oh, of course.
Also, Local Thunk has a lot less money than companies like EA, who can probably, really lobby and push back against higher ratings so that they can get the lower ratings so that kids can buy their games and buy all the microtransactions, which Local Thunk probably never anticipated they would ever have to do.
And it makes me recall the whole Senate hearings from 1993 when it was Night Trap and Mortal Kombat. And most of these guys had never even played Night Trap. They see a specific still or a screen image of it with a girl in a nightie and some monster who's got like a grappling hook around her neck, which by looking at it, you're like, oh my God, what is this? This is filth. This is disgusting. But yet nothing's really shown on the screen. It's just the part of the story, and it was very tame. It was very PG, in my opinion. I mean, maybe it could have been PG-13, but yeah, to sit there and call it filth and disgusting without ever having played it, that makes no sense.
And so with PEGI too, like I think the ratings just below 18 is like 14, somewhere around there, right? Mm-hmm. I think that would be, at least this is my opinion, if I had kids, exposing them to a game like that at 14, I think would be acceptable. But again, that's kind of up to parents, I suppose, right? Ratings should be up to the parents' discretion unless there's something obviously wrong. Nudity, gore, graphic imagery, graphic content, what have you. A card game? Yeah,
see, that's the thing, is there's nothing objectable in the game itself. It's just playing cards.
Right.
Are you betting in Balatro?
No, you don't even bet in Balatro. No.
You don't bet, but you acquire points or something like that, right?
And you're just trying to beat a points threshold based on the jokers you have that are manipulating the points to try to get them in your favor. That's all there is.
So you're not like taking money and betting on every hand like you would like video poker or something like that?
No, it's not even that. That's why I said the game has actually nothing to do with poker once you get into it.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Then I have no idea what's up Peggy's ass. That sounded weird. And why they would choose to give this an 18 plus rating.
Yeah, I don't know. They saw poker and they said gambling. Probably somebody had a stick up their ass from losing their poker game the weekend before or something.
Yeah. But now it's probably going to sell like hotcakes because, it's 18 plus. Only adults can play this. 10-year-old Timmy, Mom, I want Balatro. Because it's an 18 plus game. And then he gets it. And he's like, what the hell is this?
You don't even have like nudie pictures on the cards.
No.
Like I was looking up casino games, like legitimate casino games like Zynga and World Series of Poker and stuff like that. Like on the mobile app, they're listed as 17 plus, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of that has to do, I would imagine as well, because there is the possibility that you can play with real money. But if you like pulled up Go Fish, for example, doubt that's 17 plus.
And technically you could bet the house on Go Fish if you wanted to.
I mean, they have Casino War.
Right.
And there are actual casino games on the NES, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Casino Kid. Yeah.
Back when gambling was good family fun.
I mean, I'm just thinking about that too. Like, I had a piggy bank that was a slot machine that I got when I was in Vegas. So you put money into it and you'd pull it, and every once in a while you'd get like the jackpot and your whole piggy bank would come out. So I guess apparently that shouldn't have been something that my parents gave me until I was 18.
Don't you see how corrupted you are now?
Well, you know what the best part was? I figure out after a while you can just move the dials to where you want it.
Yeah. Ryan sitting there in his bedroom with a cigarette with an ash about 2 feet long, just pulling that lever, trying to get his allowance so he can go to the store and get a comic book.
And get more cigarettes.
Yeah.
Played poker on the bus in middle school and got in trouble, and they called my parents as Red Ox. Nice.
Ooh.
Of all the things you could do on the bus on the way home.
Right?
All right, next up, Sam Winkler, the Borderlands 4 narrative director, was discussing the tone of the upcoming game on X. Winkler replied to one question about how he was critical of Borderlands 3's toilet humor, and then voiced his thoughts on including recent internet sensation jokes. I'm not going to say there's no toilets, but if the word skibidi ships in the game under my watch, I'm going to cry real tears, said Winkler. Forbes writer Paul Tassi joked that we were going to have a gun called tuah, and a fellow dev asked me if it was real. And I wanted to put my head down the sink grinder. This is all part of trying to cut back on the overabundance of toilet humor from Borderlands 3, according to Winkler. Borderlands 4 is set to launch next year for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S.
I agree with this for one reason, is that if you want a game to last and be relevant, do not use current pop culture references.
Right.
Have you
within
seen
2 years, your game will have aged so bad.
Right.
So there's an example of a movie that I remember seeing when it first came out, and then I watched it again. And it was, you know how they did those like parody movies for a while that was like not another teen movie,
Oh, yeah.
scary movie. And then they got into like really weird and awful ones because the only thing that they could make fun of was current pop culture.
Yeah.
So the one was Epic Movie, and there was this like Paris Hilton joke that was in it, right? And when I first watched it, I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. And then I watched it again. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is, as the kid would say, cringe. So I completely agree. I get the desire to try to capture on to something that's new and exciting. So people will be like, hey, look, I bought Borderlands for the tuah gun. But nobody's going to play that game after a while because of that one small joke. Let's be honest. So
No.
have some longevity. Make the jokes be something that will last the test of time. And maybe your game won't just be the butt of jokes for the rest of eternity because you didn't have the foresight to know that.
Right. I mean, let's be honest. tuah, that's already getting pretty old. And Borderlands 4 is not coming out for another year, probably at least.
Well, and not only that, is she's been recently kind of involved in a scandal where she did a cryptocurrency meme coin and then basically pulled out all the money before anybody else could. So, yeah.
And dumped it. Yeah, she dumps. She got all of her money, basically had all these people spend all of their money for it. And in all honesty, she's probably going to be tuahing in prison if she's not careful.
TKN85 says, if you buy tuah crypto, then you deserve to lose all your money.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong. But let's say 10 years after the game comes out, some kid who just wasn't aware decides they want to come up and play the game. And they're like, I don't understand anything that's going on. This game is so cringy. It's awful.
Well, the same could be said for those movies that we knew, like Not Another Teen Movie or something. Like if somebody tried to go back and watch those movies, like a teenager now, and they're like, oh, it's a teen movie? Okay, I'll watch it. Like, what are these references of? Like, I have no idea what this is.
And they were like the most popular movies at the time. So when you watched it, you knew them because you were exposed to them. But I agree.
Absolutely.
And to your point, Donnie, if it's a multiplayer game and it's going to be one of those games that sticks around forever, those kinds of jokes aren't just, they're going to be more of a hindrance than they are to it. But if you're right, if it's pop culture for 2 years, who cares? You got people's money anyway. And honestly, if that's the only reason people are buying your game, you're in trouble.
Simon Ashtier says, meme coin scam? tuah doesn't sound like the kind of girl who would just pump and dump, would she?
Well played. Well played.
Sanity says a girl famous for a blowjob joke wasn't reliable with a flash investment situation. Shocking.
Shocking.
All right, next up, the Pokémon Trading Card Game has grown so valuable that Japanese crime syndicates are reportedly using it to launder money. The former head of a crime syndicate told Shunkan Gendai Online that his organization used Pokémon cards as a means of transporting stolen money abroad. The cards being so small, literally the size of a regular playing card, but holding so much value allowed them to be easily bought, transported, and sold abroad, the crime leader said. Some Pokémon cards are indeed incredibly valuable. The record holders sold for more than $5 million, but even some cards in regular packs are worth hundreds of dollars or more. The crime syndicate used well-documented methods of finding these expensive cards too, which are usually the ones with lots of shiny foiling. Thanks to this, advanced metal detectors are able to pick up the foiling from outside the pack, or incredibly sensitive scales can pick up incremental increases in weight. This allows the crime syndicate to buy packs in bulk, using their illegally obtained cash, open all with actual value, and then resell the remaining ones at cost.
The phrase modern problems require modern solutions comes to mind.
Oh, this is not only evident in the Pokemon world, but also in the baseball, football, hockey, basketball trading cards world as well, because people will go to a Walmart or a Target with a scale and they'll put a pack on a scale. Like, okay, this one is this. All right, same weight, a little bit more. Oh, that's got a mem card. That's got a patch card in it. Whoop, I'm going to buy that one. That's a thing to do.
What a pain in the ass.
Yeah. And so is this. So is this whole thing a pain in the ass. You're buying a box of Pokemon cards, and then you have to open all this stuff up. You're not laundering money. You're doing work, and you're getting paid for it.
It must still be worth it, or they wouldn't do it.
Just feels a lot like Veruca Salt's father.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to give him credit. If you're going to do crime, make it funny.
Well, and at least they're being smart about it, right? They're actually making sure that they don't lose money by just buying box or case after case after case. They're doing the investigative work to see which ones they should specifically buy so that their losses are very minimal.
So it's like that meme, it's not much, but it's honest work in a way?
Yeah, exactly. Is it honest? No, it's not.
I mean, the thing is, though, that the whole point of this is to hide money that they have acquired illegally, right?
Right.
I would just love to meet the one guy who convinced them that this was a good idea, right? Who was just like a Pokemon card enthusiast and was like, listen, I've got an idea.
Right. He's probably like the lower level Yakuza, like somebody's uncle insisted they allow him to join, but nobody really wants him there.
Damn, man, this is awesome. I love this.
And when it fails, give me your pinky.
He becomes like an underboss overnight. He's the Pokemon underboss. I love this.
The part I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around is, you're buying just a raw card and not a graded card? And
well, yeah, they're buying packs of it, right? To with their legal money, so that it becomes a legitimate source of currency, if you will, because it's right. So they don't necessarily care what it is, but if they're able to profit again off of that, so it's almost like they're using their legal money to launder it and then invest. That's a genius freaking thing to do, right? What they could have done, which a lot of companies or a lot of crime syndicates, what they do is they purchase real estate or they purchase something else that really isn't going to net them a huge profit right off the bat. But they've taken it a step further.
Terry Kinnair says raw carding it.
And you know that I like it raw. Shimmy, shimmy, y'all, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yeah.
All right, let's move on to our main topic.
All right, from GameSpot, the 10 biggest video game news stories of 2024.
2024.
You want to reread that?
I run Burgundy?
It said 2023 on my side.
Right.
All right. Yep. All right. 2024 is all but over, and it was a momentous with major storylines, game releases, and trends cementing their place in another busy year for gaming. But what were the biggest news events of the year? No list could possibly be complete or perfect, but we're spending some time looking back at this year that was and putting together a rundown of the biggest news of 2024.
2024 got off to a blazing start with the launch of Pal World in January. Developed by Pocket Pair and colloquially referred to as Pokemon with Guns, Pal World put up a massive player and sales numbers upon release. In September, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company launched a lawsuit against Pal World, not necessarily for any visual similarities to Pokemon, but rather over patent infringement claims. Despite the ongoing lawsuit, Pocket Pair is pushing ahead with its Pal World expansion plans, say that 5 times fast, teaming up with Sony for a merch line and announcing a partnership with Terraria.
Layoffs once again rocked the wider video game industry, with companies like Microsoft, Sony, Riot, Unity, Discord, Twitch, Eidos Montreal, Sega, EA, Take-Two, and more collectively cutting thousands upon thousands of jobs. If there is a bright spot, it could be that the video game industry layoffs in the second half of 2024 declined compared to the first half of 2024 and the second half of 2023. That's good news, but those baselines are also still the worst in history, according to researcher Matthew Ball.
In February, Disney announced that it was investing a further $1.5 billion into Epic Games, and on top of previously announced funding round, to create a Disney multiverse inside Fortnite. It remains to be seen when this might happen or what partnership could entail. Of course, Disney and Epic are already in business together through their previous partnerships around franchises like Star Wars and Marvel, but what's planned here is understood to be something bigger, bolder, and more bespoke.
After years of development, Sony's newest exclusive, the multiplayer shooter Concord from developer Firewalk, launched in August 2024. However, the game failed to find an audience on launch day. It peaked at 697 concurrent players on Steam, a figure which doesn't include PS5 players, but does speak to the apathy surrounding the game. This led Sony to make the dramatic decision to remove the game from sale and offer refunds less than 2 weeks after launch.
Game Pass underwent significant changes in 2024 as Microsoft reworked the subscription tiers-based system. Game Pass was originally pitched to consumers as a single subscription they could sign up for to get new games on day one, but it is no longer that. Due to changes made in 2024, only Game Pass Ultimate for $20 a month subscribers and PC Game Pass $12 a month members get all new games at launch. The new Game Pass Standard tier for $15 a month and Core tier for $10 a month do not include all day one launches.
The Borderlands movie adaptation released in August of this year, and even with an all-star cast of Cate Blanchett, Jack Black, Kevin Hart, and Jamie Lee Curtis, it wasn't enough to overcome audience apathy and bad word of mouth. The film became a box office bomb, earning only $8.6 million in its opening weekend against a production budget of $110 to $120 million. Lionsgate pulled the movie from theaters less than a month after its release.
The legendary long-running video game magazine Game Informer was shut down by parent company GameStop in August. The magazine's first issue was published in 1991 during the 16-bit era, and the magazine steadily grew and evolved over the decades. Workers at the magazine were laid off immediately, even though the next issue was 70% finished and received severance pay. The Game Informer website was also taken down, including its archives.
The PS5 Pro launched in early November with an eye-watering price of $700 US. The move follows Sony's playbook for a mid-gen refresh, as the company also launched a PS4 Pro during that platform's lifecycle. Many balked at the $700 price tag, but the system was never aimed at the masses. Sony said the PS5 Pro was for a small subset of the PlayStation community who wants the newest and very best piece of plastic.
Embracer went on a massive cost-cutting initiative that resulted in at least 29 games being canceled and more than 1,400 people losing their jobs. Defending these drastic changes, Embracer CEO Lars Winnefors said that the company's mission is to maximize shareholder value, even if it means canceling games, closing studios, and laying off staff. For what it's worth, Embracer previously took $1 billion from Saudi Arabia and defended that decision when people criticized Saudi Arabia's position on human rights.
I remember that one. And like many years before it, 2024 was also marked with a lack of news on a number of high-profile video games and products. Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 6 was a complete no-show in 2024 after the game's first trailer broke records with its debut in December 2023. Much the same can be said for Nintendo's next console, the Switch 2. Nintendo wasn't completely silent on the subject, but has refused to go into specifics as of yet, instead telling fans to sit tight for now until the company is ready to share more. Other games that we heard almost nothing about in 2024 include Metroid Prime 4, Beyond Good and Evil 2, the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake, Everwild, and you guessed it, Hollow Knight Silksong.
You know what the worst part I think for Blue is that
What's
she
that?
not only had to copy paste this, so she's seen this before, but then she had to hear you say it again.
In that smug tone, yeah.
Yes. And you knew it was coming.
Stick that knife in as deep as possible.
And you know what? I got to appreciate her integrity. She could have just left it out knowing full well that we would have given her shit for it. And yet she didn't. So kudos to you.
I am a benevolent podcast daddy.
Well, I'm going to break your heart, but I'm going to go and have them not release Silksong.
He's going to go into like Team Cherry office and be like, listen, I've got somebody I really need to piss off. So if you guys could just off about the whole Silksong thing, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. All right.
But we've been working on this for like 6 years.
But you still haven't released it yet, so.
Sanity says, in caps, we do not speak about Silksong like that. See, it's not just me, you're hurting. So every year, as we have done the last 3 years, we're going through a trip down memory lane for the news stories of the past year.
I will say, if we're looking at one of the more impactful ones that sticks in my memory in regards to kind of each one of these that we've talked about, right? Mm-hmm. I think that the one that sticks out to me the most is for Embracer. Not necessarily quintessential, but it really encompassed the whole thought process behind this year of just all these layoffs and people being, companies being apathetic to developers and really the gaming community at large. And so for him to straight out like say that the quiet part out loud, that he was just there to maximize shareholder value and no one else means anything besides the shareholders. Mm-hmm. We all know that, but it's not comforting when you get laid off. And that's the example or the justification that they give you on your way out the door. And then they took money from Saudi Arabia before that. Yeah. Which, we got criticized for criticizing Saudi Arabia once.
We did.
That. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Lost a patron over that.
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace.
We're forever grateful for your support, as short-lived as it may have been.
There we go. I hope they still listen.
Yeah. And then to come out later and say, well, the reason that AAA new games are capped at $70 is because, you just haven't asked gamers to spend more. You need to just put out bigger and better games and they'll be willing to spend more. And so it's like, okay, Lars, show us this magical game that we'll be willing to spend so much more money on.
Right.
I think you're the exact person who should do it because you understand us. You understand what the gamer is looking for, clearly.
That falls in line with Sony's line of thinking of saying, oh, well, the PS5 Pro is not going to be for everybody. It's only going to be for the super rich who can just piss away $700.
I mean, speaking of saying the quiet part out loud, I guess that's one way to deflect the criticism about your price point. It was like, well, if you can't afford it, it's not for you, pleb.
Right. That's pretty much it. God, I'm getting tired of the CEOs that do this. They to maximize shareholders, and I get it. You're a business, but the fact that you are effing with people's livelihoods and you're still raking in all of these profits that you could be sharing with the people that create these damn things, but no, because you want to buy your 15th yacht.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say is that it's interesting to me that I think study after study and example after example, when I say study, I mean more like case study, but is that if you invest in your workforce and you are willing to provide them with the necessary things so that they feel comfortable in the workspace and that they can come into a place that they feel passionate about, the end product is always better. Longevity of your company is always better. And the propensity for profit is always better. And yet, all of these, you're right, all these CEOs are thinking about the next 2 years, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. About how do I raise profits enough that when I leave, my golden parachute is as big as possible.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But moving on from the villain of the year, I think one of my favorite stories was honestly the Borderlands movie.
Yeah, there's so much to this. When it comes to like disappointing a fan base, overpaying for talent, right? Not recognizing what people are going to be asking for, and then having to pull it 2 weeks later, like tucking your tail and going. This is very entertaining. More entertaining than the movie.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Now, I will give them this. Like, they tried to shoot it during the pandemic broke. They had to shut everything down. It was, of course, it would have been horrible for continuity, trying to get reshoots together. But that doesn't change the fact that they just released a shit product. But the marketing that they put out on the other side of it, they spent so much money on marketing as if they were going to bamboozle us all into not realizing that it was a shit product, and that we were going to throw our money at them and be grateful for the chance to go see yet another Kevin Hart comedy, where for some reason Kevin Hart is cast as the only non-comedic role in the whole movie. I don't know what's happening there, but the movie is as bad as everyone says. And it just, watching it go up in flames, it's nice to see a studio that is throwing out a cash grab to get what they deserve every once in a while.
Right. You actually saw the movie?
I did.
All the way through, and not just like the first 10 minutes and said, this was not for me?
All the way through. The reason being, when it went to streaming, and it had, I think it was $20 on Prime. And Mr. Blue said, please, 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 can we rent this? And I was like, okay, at least I'll have something to talk about later. And then afterwards, even he agreed with, we should not have spent $20 on that movie.
What if you can get a refund? You know?
Yeah.
So Satisfaction says, we'll see this again next year with the Minecraft movie.
Probably.
God willing, I'd like to get a couple weeks worth of news out of that.
Tekin85 brings up a really good point here. The other flop of the year,
right?
Which happened to
Speaking of
be
cash grabs,
right in the same month. So cup runneth over. Was of course Concord, and it's 2 weeks of 8 people I think played it. I don't know, something like that. So Tekin85 said, the fact that Concord and the Borderlands movie released in the same month is chef's kiss. I agree.
We were eating good for a couple weeks there.
Oh, we were.
It was good stuff.
I do find it funny now that nowadays, if you go on eBay to try to find a copy of Concord, they're very expensive.
But is anybody buying them?
Well, no, nobody's buying it to play it. Everyone's buying it to collect it, put it in there, and then keep it in a sealed case. And what you can say is, I have one of those games that was pulled from the shelves, right? So there's a rarity piece to it, so there's scarcity involved. And then as well, it's got a funny story. So it's like a joke, like, this is so bad. You know?
My whole thing with so movies don't stay in movie theaters for that long anymore anyway. It's basically a month or two, and then it goes to streaming, right? When it used to be like 6 months to a year for like a movie comes out, it's 2 or 3 months or maybe even 6 months in the theaters, and then you have to wait a ridiculously long time to get it on DVD or VHS. But now a month or 2 months is kind of standard. So them pulling it after a month, it's like, well, why not just let it ride? Continue to let it ride, and you still will get stragglers who go into the movie theaters and pay the $6.95 or the $10 or the $15 or whatever to go see the movie, just as much as you're going to get at home with people trying to stream it and whatnot on that avenue. So kind of a missed opportunity from them in that regards. But we've talked about the whole Concord issue where it was not going to be justified to spend the money to run the server for people to play on it when there weren't that many people doing so. So the rate of return was non-existent. So I can totally see them shutting down everything regarding Concord unless it maybe had some sort of single player experience, which I doubt that it did. It was strictly multiplayer all the way. And in that regard, yes, that was a good call.
Game Informer, no longer around.
Yeah, that was the big one.
And that sucked to me. That sucked for me personally because I used that site for the last 2.5 years to do our top 3 new releases. And then it went away and I was like, well, crap, what the hell do I do now?
Well, you can always use Electronic Gaming Monthly.
Right. Now I have to use freaking Metacritic.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I have to go on there every week and then I have to wash my hands thoroughly afterwards.
I was going to say, you've invested, I assume, in a lot of hand sanitizer.
I wear a hazmat suit some weeks.
With like one of those grabby claws that people use on scooters.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's move on to our top 3 new releases. Speaking of,
Squid Game Unleashed, mobile, Ugh. Prepare for fast, heart-pounding action and brutal competition in this multiplayer battle royale game. Play with friends or enemies online and see if you have what it takes to outlast and defeat the other players in each twisted contest. With deadly challenges you'll recognize from Squid Game, the series, and more new games inspired by classic childhood activities, each round is a dark trip down memory lane. Can you make it through playtime alive? On Your Tail, Switch and PC. A cozy detective adventure where you play as a vacation-bound writer who stumbles upon an idyllic town plagued by an enigmatic thief. Crack the case in this charming seaside town, build relationships, and unravel secrets in a world full of quirky characters and heartwarming stories. And yes, you're like a dog, a cat, or a fox, or what have you. Alien Rogue Incursion, PSVR 2, MetaQuest, and PC. Alien Rogue Incursion is an all-new action horror VR game that transforms you into ex-colonial Marine Zula Hendricks on a dangerous mission to the uncharted planet Perdon, featuring innovative real-life motion gameplay, a whole-body loadout, and the most cunning xenomorphs ever encountered. Based on these awesome descriptions this week, Blue, which game are you picking?
So this is not a great week. We've kind of reached that point at the end of the year when there's not much releasing.
Right.
Squid Game Unleashed mobile. I think this is a terrible idea. The only thing it has going for it is that it's free right now. If you have a Netflix subscription, great. I don't care. I'm not playing this. On Your Tail. It's probably adorable. It's probably fun, but cozy detective adventure game. That's not up my alley. And Alien Rogue Incursion is probably really fun. But A, it's VR, which I can't play. And then B, I was watching the trailer where you're walking through this dark metallic interior of a space station. There's blood smears, and then you come across the body. And as you keep exploring, you uncover the horror that has happened. I was just like, I swear I've played this before. It's Doom 3, it's Dead Space, it's Alien Isolation. Like, how many games are set in dark metallic interiors of space stations with blood smears all over the walls? I am over this week.
Ooh, big fat zero. Okay.
Big fat zero.
I can appreciate that and understand it. Ryan, what about you? What are you picking, if anything?
So Squid Game, first of all, like the biggest strike, I think, to start off is that it's a mobile game. So it's not available anywhere else besides your phone. But the second piece to this is it's Fall Guys with blood. That's pretty much it, right? Which I like Fall Guys. Fall Guys is a fun game. And it's same thing. It's cartoony, right? It's cartoony violence and stuff. The one problem is I think what made the actual show of Squid Game so appealing is that it wasn't just physical activities like dodging things or running and then stopping right before the eyes look at you. It was puzzles. You were solving puzzles, right? So it was interesting. There took a certain amount of intelligence in order to be good at the game, where this is just, it's like platforming more or less. And it's what Fall Guys has already done. And honestly, I don't know a lot of people who are still playing Fall Guys fairly regularly. So maybe this is one of those ones where people get into it temporarily because it's a fun party game. But outside of that, I don't know. And
or just because of the name that has it on the cover.
Exactly. But other than that, it just doesn't seem appealing to me. It's like, been there, done that. On Your Tail, all the characters look like furry profile pics from Twitter. Every last one of them.
Right.
But down to it, it includes like all the game mechanics that I can't stand. Way too much dialogue. There's a fishing game in it in the middle of it, you know. And the one thing is like there's an arcade in it, and the games in the arcade look more fun than the actual game itself. So that's a problem. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, that is definitely not up my alley. Now, Alien Rogue Incursion, I am a sucker for these kinds of games. So even though I think, Blue, you're tired of them, I am not tired of these games. So put me in a space station with an assault rifle and aliens to shoot, and I will be all over it. But your problem is the same as mine. I don't own a PSVR 2, a MetaQuest. It says it's available for PC, but I assume that just means that if you have a PC with a different type of VR setup, you can use it. So unfortunately, it's a zero because of technology for me. But if I could, if I was willing to spend the money, which I am not, I would go with Alien Rogue Incursion.
Alrighty.
And Donnie, what about you?
Well, yeah, I don't play mobile games. I don't play mobile games at all. I recently had the Pokemon game that they just released on it because I was checking it out, and I hadn't touched it in like 2 weeks. I'm like, nah, get this off my phone. My phone is just something I don't like. I read stuff constantly on Reddit, just browsing, reading, doing all this other stuff. I don't play games on my phone. If I want to play games, it's my PC, any of the consoles that I have. So Squid Game Unleashed, not really going to do that. Also, because what you guys just said, it's a platformer. There's many different other platformers out there, and I don't think that this fits in the genre of Squid Game. So that's off the table. On your tail, I looked at the preview and the trailer, and as soon as I saw the cute little furry fox or whatever it is driving the scooter, I'm just like, nope, I don't care whatever this is.
We don't kink shame.
We don't kink shame, but it's not for me. I don't care if it's for anybody else. I'm just saying it's not for me. So
it's
investigative puzzle games with different furries, no thank you. That's out.
We won't yuck your yum.
Yeah, exactly. And I won't
That's
yum
all
your
we
yum.
ask.
Alien Rogue Incursion. Okay. I, in the same way as Blue, I cannot play VR games with movement. It makes me sick. I don't know what it is. But this game looks pretty good because of the content, because of the IP, because of how scary and dark it is. And if you've got a xenomorph skittering around and one of the face huggers going around through the ceiling and all that stuff, and I can see that in full 360 degree, you bet your damn ass I'm going to buy this game and at least experience it. Along with the Batman game that recently came out. I'm going to try and get that on the VR as well. I at least want to try it. And if it doesn't cost, if it's not a high cost of entry for me to at least try it and then have my kids play it, then sure, I'll think about it.
How old are your kids, remind me?
14 and 11, about ready to turn 15 and 12.
So 15-year-old, cool. Please do not do this to your 11-year-old. That is nightmare fuel. I would get nightmares from this game. So, I'm
going to say because I can't play VR games, it's going to be a 0 for me this week. But because I want to give it a try, Alien Rogue Incursion.
Donnie's going to be buying his barf bag packs at Costco between this one and the Batman game.
If I could wear it like a feed bag while I'm playing the VR thing, just like, I'll be good.
So the fumes come back up at you and
no, please, no. No, it's situated so my nose is outside of it, so I can't smell it.
Oh, okay. Aren't you smart? You've thought of everything.
Got him to gag. Yes. We should have like a thing where if you get him to gag on there, that it should activate a sound, right? Like a do 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 do.
Won't that be a fun game for 2025? Ryan
Yes.
and I will have a competition. Who can make Donnie gag more? And Ryan, you don't get to use any of your physical advantages.
Because I'm ugly? Is that what you're going to
No, that's not what I meant at all. Never mind. I'll let you think on that.
Or your size 15 Hobbit feet.
All right.
Very vulnerable right now.
Before we move on, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. This segment is proudly sponsored by A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast. The show explores the history of video games through the stories and experiences of the people who lived it. This week's question is, if you were forced to choose one of these controllers to game with for the rest of your life, which would you pick? The Atari Jaguar controller, the N64 controller, or the Power Glove? Let Bill know your answer by sending him a tweet at A Gamer Looks at 40 on Twitter.
I feel like this is directed at me.
Not everything is about you.
Right?
Just feels like it's about me. So I've never played an Atari Jaguar, so I can't say from experience whether I would like it or not. So that's off the table. The Power Glove just doesn't really work, let's be honest. So by default, by the process of elimination and syllogism, I have to go with the N64 controller, begrudgingly.
Webhead says N64. TK95 says Jaguar controller, more buttons.
There is so many buttons on that.
There are so many buttons.
That controller is obnoxious.
Looks like an Atari 5200 controller. It's like, what am I? In what capacity would I need all these buttons?
Right.
Or in the middle of a game, how do you know, like, I need to push the third one on the second row or whatever? How do you keep all of that straight?
Just imagine you holding it up going, I don't know which one is it. Okay, that one.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Really takes you out of the gameplay. You know?
That reminds me when I play Mario Party with my parents. I'm like, well, you have to press the A button. And they're like, okay, that one.
And then they keep pressing the wrong one after that. So
I posted years ago, a screenshot on Twitter. My dad had accidentally had his thumb on the screenshot button of the Switch Pro controller forever. He took like 600 screenshots of one mini game.
Oh, that's great.
Love it. Oh,
And just
awesome.
going back later, like delete.
Can I bulk delete?
Yeah.
Used up 32 gigs.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be the N64 controller because you've got the joysticks, does it have shoulder buttons? I think it does.
It does. It has bumpers.
Yeah, so it's the most analogous to what we use today. But if the Power Glove could be fixed, if it could be improved, just think how awesome it would be if it were able to reach its full potential.
Absolutely. I love the fact of the Power Glove. I love the aesthetic of it, but the practicality playing.
Oh, 100%.
You're playing one-handed. That's all.
Right.
And I'm sorry, with some of the games that we've played that we've speedrun and everything like that, you're not going to be able to play with just one. And I see the people using Tetris trying to flip over the controller and then with their pinky, and I'm like, that's not me. So that's exactly what you're going to have to do with the Power Glove. So it's impractical. I love the thought of it, but it's not for me.
And Frankie, you bring up an interesting point because you said, I can't believe they didn't revisit the Power Glove for modern systems. They tried one more time on the N64. Glover, the game Glover, you had a glove. And then I think that was the nail in the coffin because I think that might have been worse than the NES one.
TKN85 says RGB needs to play one-handed with some of those games on his Switch library.
With the little hawk tuah, you know what I mean?
They're also on my PC library. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming, students. Please take your seats and welcome back to Professor Rybread's Gaming History 101. And in today's lesson, we'll be discussing the dark side of gaming, the deplorable individuals, plague online communities, leaderboards, and tournaments. We, of course, will be talking about cheaters in gaming, in particular, my top 4 alleged cheaters in gaming, because not doing a top 5 feels a bit like cheating.
Please tell me somebody's on this list. Please tell me somebody's on this list. Please tell me somebody's on this list.
Probably not who you would hope. Anyway. So if we look at cheating, it's probably, for the most part, existed since the beginning of gaming, right? People naturally look for advantages that they can exploit to either make gaming easier or make themselves look more skilled amongst their peers. I will say, though, that not all cheating and cheaters are created equal. So if you're using a Game Genie, a Game Shark, or save states in the comfort of your home, I don't really have a problem with it, I'll be honest. And how you choose to play your game is up to you, and I have really no right to judge how you entertain yourself. However, there are a few instances where I feel justified in judging someone who is cheating, and that's when we decide that we want to trick others into thinking that you're playing legitimately while exploiting an unfair advantage. That could be splicing together speed runs, to claim world records, to look altogether like it's one solid performance, using cheat software to play a game better than you normally would, or just exploiting a loophole to gain an unfair advantage. And I think that there are many, many more examples of how you can cheat in games. So that really, interestingly enough, throughout my research, it begged the question. I was like, why would somebody cheat at video games? And, through my research, I found a few themes in particular amongst the most prolific cheaters. And I was genuinely surprised by some of the common motivations. I would have thought that most cheaters were just either awful at playing games and just wanted to appear good. But oddly enough, most of them are actually really skilled players and choose to cheat because of a myriad of different reasons. For example, they've hit a wall as far as their skill set is concerned. That maybe they lack the motivation to continue to practice and push themselves. It could be reputation that they want to uphold and continue throughout time. And another example would be the opportunity for monetary gain for themselves. So, what we'll see from this list is that all of them started off as very skilled gamers and were just tempted too much by cheating to resist. So, one other factoid that I came across here that I couldn't validate, that I heard in one of the videos I was watching during my research, was that there was a poll that was done through a popular gaming magazine. It said that 57% of players admit to having cheated in video games. So I guess I'll pose the question to Blue and Donnie. Have you ever, quote unquote, cheated in a video game? If the answer is no, then congratulations, you're in the 43%.
Like, the only thing that I could really think of is when you would play with younger siblings back in the day.
Right.
And you would have some sort of advantage, or like, playing the old duck hunt where you could control the duck, but they didn't know you were doing it.
Right.
Unplug their controller, to get an advantage.
That too.
Yeah. But I've never installed software or anything like that. That would allow me to win in a first person shooter game or anything such as that. No.
Nope.
Yeah. I mean, I remember utilizing a Game Genie because it was on rental and I had Battletoads. So I just wanted to see
what you gotta do.
Right. But there's never been an instance where I've used cheating as something that at least I was doing publicly. Just because, and I think it's interesting. Sanity brought up, he said, same question goes for like people who utilize steroids. People want to feel awesome, even though according to him, it actually makes them a loser. Being able to skip the hard work sometimes seems very appealing. But, when we look at these top 4, quote unquote, I'm going to put again, alleged cheaters. It's in no particular order because it's alleged, unless they've come clean and admitted it, they may not be guilty. Just as a disclaimer to avoid litigiousness.
Do we know any alleged cheaters who are litigious?
No, surely not.
I can't think of any.
All right. So the first one, number 1, is Shmooey from Guitar Hero. Shmooey. So that's right, Guitar Hero. A game that you likely haven't thought about in a while is still thriving in an online high score community. And Shmooey was a prominent figure in that community and was widely regarded as the game's best player, to the fact that they were able to complete songs often that were thought to be impossible. And as a result, would get money from people who would put up bounties to complete said songs. In early 2020, unfortunately, he was exposed. Well, unfortunately for him, he was exposed as a cheater, shocking fans and fellow players. Now, Shmooey was, again, a highly skilled player. He was able to fool the community by recording gameplay at a slower pace and then speeding it up, playing the videos on stream as if he was playing live, and then would tap his fingers along on camera to appear as though he was actually playing the game.
Ah, okay. I think I remember this one.
And again, because he was so skilled, it would take a very keen eye to notice that he wasn't hitting the buttons at the right exact moment. Because, I mean, it's just so fast, these guys, when they play online.
It's so fast?
So fast.
Webhead says he's no Thad Jarvis from South Park playing acoustic guitar.
Love the reference. Nice.
And Rambowski says use the Game Genie to beat a load of games or just have fun with infinite ammo and lives. Good old days.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring up Thad Jarvis. In that episode, they're playing at a bowling alley, and in the back you can see it says Custer's Revenge on one of the arcades. Yeah. All right. So, his whole deception, though, began to unravel when members of the community started to notice kind of the irregularities of his gameplay. There was inconsistent timing with the music. Actually, at one point, a Windows Media Player tab popped up on screen showing that he was. Yep. And a deeper investigation revealed clear evidence of video manipulation. Following the scandal, Shmooey admitted to his actions, issued a public apology, and returned all the prize money that he had fraudulently won. And he deleted his YouTube channel and social media presence, stepping away from the Guitar Hero scene. What I find interesting, though, is that a lot of times with these, and Shmooey's another example of this, is that when he first got caught, he denied, and then it was irrefutable evidence. So he said, I just did the one. I've never done anything other than that. And then there was like, well, we found 4 more that you did. Okay, it was just that 4.
Right. Anybody find anything else?
Right. And then eventually it was like he came out and said every single one of them.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2, Todd Rogers for Dragster.
Yeah.
Todd Rogers was a former professional video game player who was once celebrated for setting numerous high scores in classic arcade and console games, particularly during the 1980s, where it was really difficult to refute somebody. However, his legacy came under intense scrutiny when accusations surfaced that many of his records were fabricated. The most famous case involved his alleged world record in Dragster for the Atari 2600, where he claimed a time of 5.51 seconds, a feat that was deemed mathematically impossible by game developers and speedrunning experts. So in 2018, Gaming Community and Twin Galaxies, which of course was the kind of authority in gaming records back then,
Right.
conducted quite a few investigations, and they used modern tools and simulations and demonstrated that his time could not possibly be achieved with the game's mechanics. Additional scrutiny revealed inconsistencies and lack of evidence for many of his other records. So his kind of comeuppance moment was that Twin Galaxies removed all of his records and permanently banned him from the leaderboards. And he actually had Guinness World Records listings for it as well. And they took him off, kind of stripping him of all the titles. And he's never admitted to it. So this is an alleged one, right?
Right.
We have not confirmed it. But I don't think that he goes to a public showing without somebody giving him a hard time about potentially being a cheater.
You can't. With that kind of high profile that you've gotten records after world records and you're renowned and in the video game industry and speedrunning and all that stuff, people know you as this guy that did this main feat, and to come to find out that you're a cheater?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Sorry. Allegedly. It's going to follow you till you die and after you die.
I guess I would respect people more if they would just admit to it, but that's just allegedly. All right, number 3 is Forsaken for CSGO. Nikhil Forsaken Kumawat was an Indian professional Counter-Strike Global Offensive, or CSGO, player who ended his career due to a cheating scandal, ironically enough, in 2018 as well, during the Extremes Land Asian Finals. He was caught cheating during the live tournament match, and tournament officials were actually suspicious due to some unusual gameplay behavior and actually stopped the match to investigate his computer. And the best part about this is that he disguised the cheat file under the name word.exe or word.executable on his system. It's kind of like, reminds me of like where you would put a folder on your desktop that it said not porn. So apparently he tried to delete, the file during the investigation, but was unable to. And then boom, was banned, disqualified from the team, disqualified from the tournament. And it actually created huge uproar in the community. And he got a 5-year ban from the Esports Integrity Commission.
That's it?
Yep.
No, it should have been a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yep. But the team that he was a part of, Optic India, actually ended up disbanding as a result of it. So not only was his choice to cheat affected him, it affected the team that he was on as well.
Do you think they knew, though?
That's the big question, I think, too. Yeah, maybe disbanded so they didn't have to answer so many questions.
For real, on God.
Right. Nicely done, sir, Gen Z. All right, and last but not least, who is it? Who do you think we're going to cover here?
So many choices.
The one, the only Billy Mitchell for Donkey Kong Arcade. Billy Mitchell, you know him? You love him?
No.
You love to hate him.
Yeah.
You love to hate him.
If you don't know him, which I find it hard to believe if you're listening to the show, I highly recommend checking out the documentary King of Kong. Rent it. It's a good one. It's very entertaining. And you will see Billy being Billy. Now, he gained fame for his high scores in the arcades back in the 1980s, particularly Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. Those were his like two big winners that he had world records for. He's considered the first player ever to get a perfect game in Pac-Man. He had the world record at 800,000 in Donkey Kong for a very long time. But again, we're seeing a theme here. 2018, which I think was the year of cheaters, it showed that he was using emulation software to achieve his records. Now, normally that wouldn't be a problem, right? You can use what they refer to as MAME or multi-arcade machine emulation. It's just that the game itself, when you play it on MAME, has a little bit different timing. The controls are a little bit different, right? So that could potentially lead to an advantage for a player. And MAMEs are usually done on PCs. You can play them, or you can hook that PC up to an arcade with a stick and everything in order to get it. It's just not original hardware. And one of the things is by being a part of the Twin Galaxies name and the record boards is they had certain rules that said you need to do this on original hardware to create a level playing field for all players. And Billy said he had gotten this new record, which I believe was over 1 million points from 800,000. And it was discovered that it had been made through playing MAME software. And the reason that it was done that is that there apparently is different timing when how the boards load. So if you can slow down the footage and do it frame by frame, you can actually see clear as day the difference between a actual hardware version of Donkey Kong versus a MAME version of it. So as a result of this revelation, Twin Galaxies, they banned Mitchell Scored from the leaderboard. They banned him from future submissions. And again, Guinness World Records actually stripped him of all of his titles, which he has, again, denied, just like Todd Rogers. He is very, very litigious. He has filed lawsuits to everyone and their mother, claiming, libel and slander, and that all the evidence that's out there is fraud. And he likes to sue people, at least from what I can tell, to try to silence them. And it is an intimidation tactic. So please don't sue me, Billy. I'm just talking about it. Like I said, it's an alleged. I'm not saying you cheated. I'm just saying it looks like it.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So those, to kind of wrap things up, those are my list of the top 4 cheaters in gaming history. There are so many more. I could have done hours on this topic. But those were the 4 that stuck out to me as being kind of like the biggest offenders, or the most, recognizable. So as a reminder, though, just because you can cheat doesn't mean you should. But if you're going to cheat, just do it for yourself. Don't try to gain clout from it. Don't try to gain monetary value from it. Just enjoy the games. So I guess that's the moral of the story today. But thank you for attending today's Gaming History 101. And just a reminder, if you have any ideas for a story or topic you'd like to hear, send us a message at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com, and we might feature your suggestion.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up the show. Thank you all for listening to episode 144 of Gamers Week Podcast. And a big thank you to the Retro Game Club Podcast, Love Retro BTW, A Gamer Looks at 40 Podcast, and Pixel Pond Production Company for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget to check out their links in the show notes. If you want to connect with Gamers Week, follow us on Twitter or Blue Sky at Gamers Week PC. Watch us right here on Twitch at twitch.tv/Gamers Week Podcast, where we will record live every Wednesday at 8:30 Central Time. Email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com. Visit our merch store at gamers-week-podcast.creator-spring.com. Or if you want to do it the easy way, follow the link in the show notes. And last but not least, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamersweek. And don't forget, next week we are releasing a very special adults only Christmas episode. So don't miss out on that. And finally, since you made it all the way to the end of the episode, please leave us a rating and a review to let us know how we did. We really do value your feedback. And while you're there, consider subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice. Everyone, have a Merry Christmas next week. We'll miss you, but hope you were good. Santa will bring you something nice.
You know what's funny is like if you got cold today, I might be stoked to be like, sweet, free energy, right? You know?
Save $20 on the power bill this month.
Exactly. Throw it in the furnace. We're gonna be we're good to go.
Have a good night, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Hollandaise.
Daddy is in the chat already saying, bring out the podcast, Daddy.
I'm here.
Hey.
It's okay. What?
You did not win that title. You didn't win that title.
It's not fair.
You better mind your manners or you will be dubbed creepy podcast uncle.
Yes, Daddy.
I thought we had an opportunity to impeach. Like, can we do a vote of no confidence against the podcast, Daddy?
None of that was decided. You should have made your constitution a little bit more iron-proof.
We didn't have a constitution.
Exactly.
You
You're
slipped
a
right into the
dictatorship.
role.
So then I guess it requires a violent coup d'etat.
Ooh.
Come and get me.
Man, this is an expensive trip to
Overthrow a small government. Just a bing bong. Oh, I wonder who that is. Doop, 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 doop. Opens the door. Ryan? Stab.
But you know what? I would respect it. I'd be lying on the ground, bleeding to death. Be like, good one.
No, not enough to kill you. Just enough to get the message across. Like you're no longer the podcast daddy.
I got to be honest with you. I'm not that precise. So, I could kill her.
Oof.
I'm a first timer. I've never shipped someone before.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut, patrons with benefits. This is the unscripted, patron-only bonus cast with less editing and more dirty jokes. We don't know where the conversation will go, but we're sure it will be weird.
This fish just went right on my nipple, and I'm just like,
I Google Street Fighter 6. The first search result that comes up is people think they can see Ryu's dick in the Street Fighter 6 reveal.
Listen up here, kids. You're not going to want to get one of those VD-STDs things, right? Make it fall off. When you go, grab a pro. You'll be doing it for America.
that was perfect.
If you want to hear weekly episodes of our patron-only bonus cast, join us at patreon.com/gamersweek.